Well, g'day, Max here again. Welcome back to the shop. So, I've got a moment to punch out a quick machining video or two coming up. Been out doing flashings, the roof flashings on the new shop. So, I sort of got sick of that and ran out of flashing. I've got more on order, so I've got a bit of a break for a couple of days. So, I've got this little job here, this piece of shaft. This is a hardened chrome shaft. It's out of a quick hitch off a Caterpillar excavator, 50-ton excavator. What the problem with this shaft is, it's in good condition, but the ends of it are a few thou mushroomed out from abuse. So rather than just going around it with a grinder, and yeah, it's a pretty shabby bush mechanic repair that, I'll chuck this up in the lathe, and because this is so hard we can't turn it with a tool. Probably if you had a ceramic tool you'd be able to do it, but if you chip the tool, you know, that's quite expensive. So what we're going to do is just touch up the ends with our tool post grinder. Take the mushroom out of either end and bring it back to a good usable shaft again. Let's head over to our inspection table and we'll see how much we have to play with. .756. That's a weird size. Let me try this in millimetres. 70 millimetres. Good old Caterpillar, renowned for mixing metric and imperial on the same machine. So we'll go to our worn end and we're .08 up there. So look at 3 thou oversize, and similar down the other end. So that's why it won't go in the hole. Okay, so we'll get this chucked up in the lathe. Probably put the 4-jaw on this end. We're lucky it does have a centre in either end, so we can support it with a centre. Whether that centre is still running true to the shaft, yet to be determined. So we shall see. So we're just going to clean out the centre with a 3-sided scraper. That's all it needs. Looks like it's, well, I don't know if it's been belted on the end right there or not. I think it has, but we'll try that and see how true it runs or not. So we want to open up our jaws to about 70 millimetre. Thereabouts. Yeah, I'm just going to use the tailstock to support this. Now, I think I'll put some copper shims under the jaws, purely because this is a bit mushroomed on the end. Okay, we'll put the indicator on that, we'll true up this end here. Then we'll put the indicator down here and we'll see how this is running. And that'll tell us if this centre is any good or not. And yes, still haven't splashed out on a noga yet. Like I said, a couple of years back I was going to invest in one, but well, things happen. Okay. Miles away. Absolutely miles away. Okay, that's within a thou there. Okay, I'll call that end good. Let's see what we've got down the other end. $15 thou. So we've got 15 thou run out there, so that centre's obviously had a whack. 15 there. Should greatly reduce down here. Coming down to 10 down here. Okay, so we can't use this centre. We could if we recut it. We may do that. Let's I think I'll put the fixed steady on. We'll get that, dig that out of the cupboard and get that set up. And we'll see if we can improve this. Just wipe any crap off the slideways. And from under the centre. Now I want to put this in an area, this housing goes over here and here, this bearings run here and here, so I want to put it in an area that nothing runs on. Once we get our clamp in place, of course. Looks pretty good there. That'll give us our best shot. Now, the oil can. Let me go and find my oil can and I'll be back. Right in front of my eyes. Little lube. Slowly bring our fingers up. Okay, I can take the centre away now. That feels quite good. Just knit these up. Put an indicator down here and we'll just see how we're travelling. We're looking at about 6 thou there. I don't know how much of that's wear. Coming down to 4 thou there. We're within 1 thou there, but it's one spot just there. The needle gives a flicker, quite a flicker. Right there is 2 thou. I'm going to go with that. Let's set the grinder up. We'll take a trial cut and we'll see how it fares. If we've got to do any mucking around, I'm not setup wise, hopefully we won't. I don't really think there's that much else we can do with the centre that's mushroomed over. We're on a good part of the shaft here and we're running through there, so as long as we get the high spots off the end of the shaft here. So the highest spot here, we've got our indicator on 0, we'll come down here. So we're going from anywhere up here, we're picking up to anything from 10 thou up on 0 around there, coming back to 0 around here, below 0 there, coming back up to 10 thou above 0 around here. And I can actually feel that with my fingers, the proud part there. So I think we're in a good position. So I'll get the grinder set up and bring you back. Okay, this is our Walden Type CO little tool post grinder. So one important thing when you do use these on a lathe is you really cover all your waste, cover up as much as you can, and you'll be fine. You won't have a problem with the grinding dust. Now I do normally run coolant, and that's why I use something like pig mat or rags on top of rags, and that'll filter out the bulk of the grinding dirt material, so it doesn't get mixed up in the cooling system of the machine. So let's take a trial cut and see what's going to happen. I know we're going to be taking off quite a bit. There's a large high spot there, so let's give it a go. I think that's going to be alright. Let's take a closer look and have a measure. So 70 is our nominal size. Okay, we're about 1/100th of a millimetre up here. Pretty well on it that way. Hundredth up there. So we haven't quite got a full clean up yet. Certainly our big mushroom's gone, so we'll just go a bit more and I think we'll be in a good position. And just check the steady rest. Bit of oil on it. So we'll take a fraction more. You're in gear. It's okay, we've got a full clean up there now. More so one side than the other, but I can just see witness marks across there from the wheel, which is to be expected. Let's check our size. Hundredth below, that's good. Nearly 2/100ths below. 1.5 below. 2/100ths below. That's good, we're there. That's all it took. So, we'll spin this around and we'll do the same on the other end. I should be able to leave the steady rest set up as it is. It's just a matter of flipping the bar around and re-indicating the chuck. Now, if we had a case where we couldn't control the run out here, it was too much, there's a chance we could have fudged it a bit by offsetting the chuck a little bit. and that would have helped us out here. But no, she's come up well, so let's bring you in for a close-up. So here we have a full clean-up. You can just see it tapering off back there. Come around the opposite side. We're just getting witness marks around here. So that's ground it around there. And coming back around to the full grind. So it's blended in nicely with the existing chrome. And, job done. So yeah, I'll flip it around, do the same thing on the other side. Okay, we have our part flipped around in the lathe. We've indicated this end in and got our indicator down next to the steady rest there. It'll be a bit hard to see that. That's running just over 0.01 millimeters. It's just under half a thou. So we'll come down to the other end of our part where we have to do our work. We'll stay probably 25 mil away from the very end where it's been damaged. So we got 0.1 millimeters run out down there, which is pretty close enough to 4 thou. Whoops. So we have to determine how we're going to read this. The shaft, or the wear in the shaft, is absolutely minimal. It's not enough to worry about. So what I want to look at is if I bring the indicator down, start to get a bit more there. We'll bring it around to we're on zero there. So that's actually pretty parallel there. So that tells me the shaft is not bent, it's just purely, there's a bit of wear in the shaft. So let's find our high spot here. Right there is a high spot, so I'll mark that with a texter, the Sharpie, put a blob on there. Come round to our low spot there. Okay, the indicator comes back to zero. That's better. There. So we know our shaft is falling away from the indicator. So come back up to our high spot. And we're pretty well dead parallel all the way along. So come right up to the very end, up to our damage section, and we're coming up just shy of 4 thou, or 0.08 millimeters. So that means we're going to be grinding off that high spot just for till we come back round to about here. Get the light in the right spot. So that area there, all in blue, that's what we're going to be taking off. And that should bring our shaft back to good again. As all of the rest in this area where the indicator's running there, it's all below. It's all low. So there's slight wear in the shaft there. Now the reason why that's worn like that's the position the shaft has been sitting in the housing and just the way the thing's been working. So we'll get the grinder cranked up, and it's only that. So we're not going to get a full grind all the way around. Just looking, we're just going to take this high spot off here. So we'll get rid of that. Oh shit. And see how we're travelling from there. The other thing, what I'm looking at too, right on our low spot, there is no visible shaft deformation at the end there, as there is with our high spot. So she's coming up there, fourth hour, just shy of 0.1 millimetres. So we'll remove that and we should be good to go. Okay, I think we'll set the indicator up on that. We'll take a measurement of difference between where we've ground off our high spot here and our base measurement area back there. We'll see how we're travelling. There's no use, we can't mic the diameters because of the wear on the other side of the shaft. Okay, so with our indicator back at our starting position on the end of the shaft, we're on 0 there. That little flick is nothing, 0.01 mil. That's pretty well what we started with. Now, this is the area that we've just ground, which was our high spot marked with the Sharpie. So we'll come down to that, and what we're aiming for is the same reading. We'll head down there. And that's what we've got. We've got the same reading there. So that's eliminated our high spot, and we're dropping off to the worn section opposite to where we were grinding, and back up there to our old high spot where it used to be. So you can see we've just ground away all of our Sharpie mark. Might see it a bit clearer here. So you can see where our Sharpie mark was. And we're back on 0 on the indicator. Drop off our Sharpie mark, we get to the worn section of the shaft where she drops away, and back up to our new ground area. We're back on 0. Same reading as we had back here. So this one's good to go. We can take this out of the machine, give it a good clean up, or give the machine a good clean down now, ready for the next job we're going to do in it. Now, there are a couple of things with the tool post grinder. which I always do when I'm using the grinder, and that's to put a little bit of lock on the cross slide, just enough so there's a little bit of drag, and same with the compound slide. And now I always will put the compound slide at a very slight angle, as it gives you a bit better control over the infeed. Right, we've had a good result with our pen. Now what you've just seen there is a classic perfect job for a tool post grinder, just to take a few thou or off on some high spots on a shaft that's too hard to normally machine without specialised inserts. And if you had a specialised insert, to take that small amount off would be a challenge anyway. Now it's not, you couldn't do this in any other machine easily, even though with the centres, say I could have put it in a OD grinding machine, cylindrical grinder, but that wouldn't have worked either, because this, as we found out, the centres are out. So the old tool post grinder really comes into play with jobs like this. Now a normal repair in the field and in a lot of workshops, what some people do when they come across this situation is they get straight onto the grinder and they grind the absolute crap out of the end of the shafts till it goes in the hole. By then they've ground completely a whole heap of material off the wrong side normally, and have totally stuffed the pin. So this way we just surgically remove the high spots and the pin stays in good condition. So regarding the tool post grinder, if you've got one and you really want to see a bit more what you can do with it, if you go back, I have an earlier series of videos when I was making the R8 tooling. Well, that'll be right. I've got half a dozen of these in the cupboard, and I'll pick a commercial one. And another commercial one. There we are. So yeah, well that's one of my ER40 collet holder chucks, hardened and ground, and that was all done with the tool post grinder. So if you want to know a bit more on the ins and outs of tool post grinding, go back, have a look at that series on the making the tooling, the R8 tooling for the Bridgeport. I'll try and put a link in the description, and that series covers OD grinding, ID grinding, taper grinding and face grinding. How to do it all with the tool post grinder. So anyway, so it was something a little bit different, and we will see you in the next video. Have a good Easter.